Welcome to another beautiful episode of High Performance by the Word. And I sincerely believe you've been getting blessed and impacted, and you've been reorganizing your thinking and learning some very, very beautiful things that will help and enable you succeed in whatever endeavor you have found yourself. Remember, in today's world, it's all about value creation, because the value you create determines your relevance and success. Today, we are looking at distinctive capabilities like we did the other day. I know since we began doing this, we've been showcasing people and giving them opportunity to speak to the world and let us know how they have managed effectively the resources at their disposal. I know when we talk about resources, we're talking about people resources, we're talking about information, we're talking about tools, we're talking about equipment, technology. But the point in this is that how effectively you manage the resources at your disposal will enable you create that distinctive capability, enable you create that competitive advantage, that competitive edge, that winning edge, that leadership advantage in your industry or in whatever environment you find yourself doing business. And so today we're going to be showcasing another person who has been able to manage the resources effectively that are available to him and creating that competitive edge for himself. Right after the break, we'll continue with this. Welcome, this is High Performance by the Word. We are showcasing someone on today's show who'll be talking to us and inspiring us to manage effectively resources at disposal. It doesn't matter the resources that are at your disposal, but how effectively you manage them with the sole purpose of creating competitive advantage is what is important and relevant. And today we'll be talking to a young person, a very young person, who against all odds has done this very effectively and has created a niche, a competitive advantage for himself. I'm talking about Chris Iyama. Chris Iyama, you're welcome to today's program.
Thank you, sir, for having me on the show.
Wow, it's really a beauty having you on the show. Who is Chris Iyama?
Chris Iyama is a dynamic young person. He is the founder of the Center for Youth Participation Advocacy, a youth-led organization committed to promoting democratic governance, civil rights, and of course promoting religious freedom across the world. We founded that organization sometimes back in 2013, right from our hostel room, where we felt that we needed to advocate and advance the right of students back then on campus against the indiscriminate hike of school fees as at that time. And so I got young like minds like myself who believed in the vision and then were able to thrive. And so right after that, of course, just at the course of that engagement, I'm equally the country director of the Equity International Initiative under the Community of Practice. I'm a global convener of that initiative, and I'm equally one of the arrowheads of the Not Too Young to Run campaign, the bill that sought to reduce the age to enable young people to contest and hold leadership offices in the country, which was signed by the president around May of 2018, which actually saw that young people contested elections, even in the last election. So to a large extent, I've been committed to engaging young people in the democratic space, human rights space, as well as policy issue. I'm a policy consultant to several local and international organizations that drives on youth issues.
That is remarkable. That is remarkable. But you know, looking at it from the part of the world you come from, it will be difficult for someone to think and imagine that someone as young as you are would have come up with several things you're engaged with right now, and not just engaged right now, but you've pushed it to a certain level of success. Because we know that in the part of the world where you're from, there are so many challenges impacting young people. And before we begin to look at how you overcame a lot of these challenges and the motivation behind your overcoming the challenges and doing what you're doing now, I'd just like us to highlight some of the issues that bedevil young people in this part of the world.
Firstly, you see, because of the environment we find ourselves, especially the world of young people in Nigeria, in Africa per se, young people are faced with, let's say, for instance, the environmental issues. We talk about the peer pressure. We talk about policy issues. I would hammer more on the policy issues because oftentimes policymakers tend to create policies that are not young people's driven. And so because of that, it becomes a terrible issue. Now, I do ask, how can you begin to shave a man's hair in his absence? So in other words, young people need to be committed to certain policies that drive them. They need to take active steps in participating to giving themselves a policy that will guide them. So you don't bring people who wants to retire out of life and for them to begin to form issues that will drive young people. So to start with, because even policy issues actually affect young people to an extent that it leads them to environmental issues and, of course, to peer pressure. You understand? So when you bring these three together, for instance, you live in a community where there are no motivators, nobody inspiring anyone in a particular community. So what do you get to have? You're going to have rascals being breeded because nobody is talking to them. Nobody is talking to them about the kind of information they have. And so in that kind of community, you have limited information available to them. And the most important thing is about knowledge. Because of the kind of environment where young people grow up from, especially in third world countries like Africa, young people do not have access to basic information that guides them. And again, not just, because when we begin to talk about young people's issue, young people too, they contribute to this particular stuff because oftentimes they don't want to maximize the kind of potentials that they have in a particular place to solving these environmental and peer pressure issues. So we have a generation of young people that feels that everything ought to be provided for them before they are even born. That is like a sense of entitlement, But for us, we've gone beyond that particular aspect of entitlement to creating value, a value that will last to impact even in the future, to the future generations.
Wow. But you raise a point now that even some young people, or let me not even use the word some young people, most young people in this part of the world, Africa, and not just Africa, in certain other parts of the world that, like they will say they are economically deprived. You find out that they even feel that there is nothing they can really do to help themselves. And the best way to go about life is to fight the system through negative vices. What do you think about that?
First and foremost, such kind of people of course, if you look at the statistics of young people globally, young people contribute at least 78.7% of the global population. In Nigeria, young people, I think we have over 62.3% of young people. In other words, young people put together have the total numbers of growth advantage and, of course, creating economic values. That is according to United Nations Funds for Populations and all that. So using that statistics to judge how young people should behave, especially within economic terrain. Now, another thing again is that when you experience such issues, is because the right economic policies has not been created to enable these young people to engage in terms of solving economic challenges. So in going further, crime is not just for young people. The older people to instigate young people to commit crime. Maybe at the course of the program, I will be sharing more light on that. But you see, when you have certain young people that do not, because if you do not stand for anything, you will fall for anything. So you have young people that, like I said earlier, they are not being inspired by anything. So whatever they get anything, they want to act with anything, any information they are given to them. As I am like this, there is no person that can influence me to go on the street to commit mayhem. It is not possible. I do tell young people, the best way to engage maybe government or any other set of people is bring up ideas, pragmatic and practical ideas that is going to last to change the status quo. Again, you have to bring out issues. It's about the word of young people is a word of issues. You bring out issues. Like I said, the policy formulation process where young people should be guided. So when young people are guided in these issues, they know that, you are not supposed to take up arms against your fellow human being. They need to be taught about that. Because when society refuses to drive such values, they intend to create the kind of values for themselves to think that carrying up arms against their fellow human being is legal, just like what you have in some African countries that is currently trending. So in going further, we need to have a word of young people that are committed, that are vision-driven, to ensure that no matter come what may, certain issues that are bedeviling them will not make them to bring out the beast out of them. Because when you do not engage policymakers, you don't engage government, you don't engage the system will engage you. And when the system engages you, it is going to be terrible. So finding a lasting solutions to the world of young people in terms of this crisis, because currently in the world of young people, we're experiencing crisis of identity crisis. Most young people do not know who they are. And the worst of all is that the young people that do not know who they are more in the statistics of the world population, and it's creating a very serious danger for the world of young people.
Wow. You're hitting some important points there. But there are certain questions I would like to push across to you. But we have to go on a short break now. We'll be going on a short break now. When we come back, Chris Iyamah will be answering some more questions regarding the challenges facing young people today. Welcome. We are engaging Chris Iyamah on the set, and he's been talking to us about challenges facing young people in most third world nations and in some nations in Africa. You were highlighting some very important points about the challenges facing young people earlier on. But when you have a situation where most of these young people have resigned themselves to faith, in the sense that they do not believe there is any future for young people, and therefore what the young people must do is to violently, because just recently there was this xenophobia issue in South Africa, and we know all that it generated. And somewhere back here in Nigeria, we found young people taking to the streets, and instead of engaging positively, they felt the best thing to do was destroy public services and other institutions that had been set up. Why do you think that was the response?
Well, I think it's about communication, because in the first place, most of these attacks meted on, for instance, the businesses in Nigeria. Most young people do not even know that these are franchise. These are franchise, and not necessarily owned by the other countries' the citizens, but the only thing they use is the trademark, the name. And so it is very terrible and appalling to find young people who do not understand sensitive issues, and that's why we must be so careful with the kind of information that we pass out to the general public, especially on social media. You know, I strongly believe that before that time, authorities maybe should have stepped higher in protecting some of these things, because young people always look for advantage. They take advantage of any little situation to cause mayhem. So perhaps, like I said, communication. There was a lot of communication gap in terms of reaching out to young people. And we did say, because I addressed a press conference that period to tell young people to remain calm. We worked with the Nigerian National Youth Council of Nigeria, the NANS, National Association of Nigerian Students, of course, contacting the South African Embassy in Nigeria to ensure that they release public statement in ensuring that things remain calm. But you see, on the other hand, we have young people that do not listen to sensitive instructions, and this is as a result of education. These people are not educated, because you cannot find educated man being used as dogs. It's not possible. So there's always this disconnect between rural young people and urban young people. You cannot find urban young people committing such vices because they are busy. They are busy with their ideas. They are busy with the kind of vision that God has deposited in their hearts. So one of the things that we do as an organization is to train the mindset of young people to be able to think themselves out of the box. And oftentimes, in fact, not often, that always, we get positive results. Do you know that between 2014 and last year alone, we were able to change the mindset of close to 15,000 young people across the country, always holding young policy issues, policy matters with development partners, donor agencies, government. So the idea is we bring young people to the table, we bring people at the policy sector to the table for us to discuss the real challenges. And this is where you find these particular issues coming up, and then we trash it. Now, the case of xenophobic attack, it wouldn't have escalated if not for the kind of statement being made or being credited to people that are supposed to quell the agitations. I do tell people that when you do not find the lasting solutions to national problems that are bedeviling young people, it will get to a point where even the armored tanks, the gunboats, will not be able to quell the agitations of these people. So for us not to get to that particular day, the engagement starts now. Engage young people in education, environmental issues, and that's why even the SDG, they have that as part of their sustainable development goals in terms of education, cultural issues, religious issues, because this is where you have those disconnects in terms of engaging these young people, not to take arms.
Wow. Something else I would like to push across, and I would like you to shed some more light on, which I also believe is a challenge. That means the communication, whether by word or by sight, the communication of the wrong values. Because I think that is also one of the major challenges young people face in backgrounds like this. They are made to imbibe the wrong values. For example, what you were moved to begin to do, you didn't begin to do it because of the seeming financial rewards. But there's this value of money being everything that is being pushed in the face of young people all across Africa. Don't you think that is also a major challenge young people are facing?
Well, maybe I would have to come this way, using our educational curriculum as a point of reference. You know, in the university, before you are given your certificate, they will tell you you've been found worthy in learning, worthy of learning, and in character. But do you know that the character aspect is not being taught in the university? Characters are molded from the home as the primary responsibility of parents and of the society. So when you get to school, because you are not supposed to be spending time to be solving mathematics or solving scientific equation or reading law, and they say you are being taught about how to behave, ethics, and all that. That doesn't happen. And so because of that, like you did mention, the communication, the break in communication, that equally brings me to the kind of things young people see every day, the kind of role models that is available to them, what they watch on TV, what they watch on social media, how they communicate these things to them. Maybe I would even throw light on some of those things too at the course of the program, because it is very important that if we do not, these things are part of the driving forces that encourages young people to commit crime. Because at the end of the day, young people will tell you, my education doesn't count. So if I can do this in a very simple way, why do I waste my time going to school? Because the policymakers, governance institutions have not made the business of education so respectful. It's so sad for you to even hear even lecturers are being paid, or secondary school teachers are being paid to perform their work. Yes, they are giving values, but these people ought to be well compensated more than even the political figures. So when these young people understand that what the classroom, so to say, does not add value to them, it creates a very wrong impression, and they go about. You see the FBI list that was released of recent, where you have so many young Nigerians listed that committed crimes worth of billions of dollars. And it's a problem, and that's because of the wrong things that they saw, that the things that they pushed to them to see. When you do not reward excellence, you do not reward value, you reward mediocrity. And so anything that you see thriving on social media, for instance, you see like for the musicians who they buy latest Lamborghini they call it, they buy the latest Rolls Royce, Mercedes-Benz, and young people would not want to care about how those monies are being made, because at the end of the day, they will engage them and they will see their fellow young person, I want to hammer, I want to break the chain. So at the cost of hammering, what do they want? They engage in crime, and it's a serious problem. So we need to start attacking from the issue of our educational curriculum to engage in, let's say, entrepreneurship studies. It is just of recent that they introduced that, and that's because of the kind of policy issues organization like us drove with the federal government and ministries of education to say, come, you've got to include entrepreneurial studies, because oftentimes what these people study in university is not what they see in their real life. And there's a clear disconnect about that, and that's the major issue.
Wow, Chris Iyama, wow, that is just exceptional. I think we cannot take all of this in one episode. I think I'll have to bring you back to tell us some more very important things and how you think the young people should go henceforth, and how these challenges can be overcome, and how you overcame this, and now you're doing the things you're doing. Well, we've been talking with Chris Iyama, and it's someone who has distinguished himself, has created a competitive edge for himself, a leadership edge for himself, in spite of the challenges that confront young people from his part of the world. I hope you've heard so many inspiring things from Chris Iyama, things that you can take home with you. And again, Chris Iyama, thank you for being with us on today's episode. And I think we'll need to engage you again. We've had a wonderful time on High Performance by the Word. Remember, we're looking at distinctive capabilities, and you're seeing how you can effectively manage the resources available to you to create something beautiful for yourself. See you again in the next episode. God bless you. Welcome to Performance Corner. We taking a word home today is a combination of two words: mindset and development. Mindset development, what does it mean? It is the conscious act of working or changing your bundle of beliefs to impact on your total well-being and outlook on life, because your bundle of beliefs determine your perceptions, how you'll assess and perceive life, and how you respond to situations and circumstances. So it is important, the things you believed, because the things you believed, the things you've accepted, will eventually form your mindset and determine how you perceive things and how you respond to things in different circumstances and situations. And so mindset development is very, very key. It's very, very essential. Working on your bundle of beliefs and changing your bundle of beliefs into more positive and orderly thinking and perceptions is very, very key to your success.